All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 103 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm with my main man, Bill at Super Dupaflex, and the co host with the most, Drew at DR underscore PRA. Fellas, how you guys doing?
It's been a good week.
It's been a good week. Oh, I'm like hearing that, Drew. It's been a good week. Our fandom was not affected at all this week. We got the week off of worrying about NFL wins and losses.
Yep.
Um, Bill, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah, just another week of fantasy football. It's been a good year so far, so I can't complain. Aside from Scott Fishbowl, but other than that, things have pretty much gone as well as I could hope. So yeah,
Let me allow you to feel a little bit better about your Scott Fishbowl team. Um, week 7, I had to start Jared Goff and Davis Mills as my quarterbacks because Dak and Kirk Cousins were on that bye. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better about whatever happened week 7 with your Scott Fishbowl team, because that was those were the stud muffins I was throwing out there to battle for bragging rights. So, all right, fellas, we chit chatted enough. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Bill, why don't you start us off this week with your good, man?
all right. Good for me is it's kind of like a whole season of this, but uh, on the sheet I wrote Cooper fucking Cup because that's what he does, and he's had double digit targets every week this year. Another week of what 10 for 156 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's just been like lights out. I mean, he's getting open and Stafford's finding him, man, and it's just like people were trying to get rid of him in the offseason. A lot of people thought Woods was going to be the main target. And I mean, I moved him in a league where I had a ton of wide receivers and got pretty much nothing back in retrospect. So, um, it's just one of those things where, like, if again, I think I mentioned this last week about somebody where it was everybody was trying to trade him, and you were Derrick Henry, like, you're hoping you get something, and then you get no bites, and then all of a sudden you have a wide receiver one. So, two leaders at two positions that everybody was trying to trade this offseason. So, yeah, Cup, man, he is lights out right now.
And I love that one because not only is it a this week award, like you said, it is an every week award, it seems like, for Cooper Cup. And even when Robert Woods has a good game or block game, Cooper Cup is still getting his. Um, yeah, you could have had Cooper Cup probably for a song in the offseason, just because I think the narrative, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, was that Matt Stafford was going to unlock Robert Woods, and that I think that was a big narrative that was being pushed on Twitter, and we we were half right. I mean, Stafford did unlock somebody, but I mean that unlock was Cooper Cup, obviously. So love that one. Drew, why don't you hit us with your good, man?
I'll follow in the wide receiver theme here. Jamar Chase is exactly who I think everybody thought he was going to be. And bad tackling aside on his touchdown, just what a monster, getting open on pretty much every play. That connection with Burrow is so good right now. I think he had 10 targets, caught 8 of them, 200 plus yards, that long touchdown. That's been Twitter this week trying to figure out what's it take to get Jamar Chase now, and it's so hard. I'm afraid to even put a trade out there to make it look foolish, but what a breakout he's had already, and so excited to see him with Burrow there, and happy for Cincinnati that it's working out that way.
Bill, quick question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but who has Jamar Chase in the OG Fantasy Timeline Listener League?
I believe we do.
Oh, for real? Oh man, he's so good. He's every and it's funny because I listen to a ton of podcasts like you guys do as well. And all season you just keep hearing, well, it's long touchdowns. He can't keep doing it. It's long touchdowns. He can't keep doing it. Every week he has a long touchdown. He just keeps doing it. At this point, you just have to say 99% of wide receivers can't do it every week, but Jamar Chase might be that rare 1%. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be a week that he goes, 3 for 60 or whatever. He doesn't get the long touchdown, and people are going to
6 for 97 last week or 2 weeks ago. That was your dip to buy.
That
Jeez, take
As
away
a
that
rookie.
touchdown, he's still 120 yards.
Yeah, that's gonna be like
catches.
the seventh best or the fifth best rookie game outside of all of his other ones. So
yeah, and the
what do you pay for him?
What's that?
What do you pay for him right now? Like, what is the?
I just think of that Thanos meme where he has the Infinity Gauntlet and it just says everything. Because honestly, like the person that drafted Jamar Chase used, in a super flex league, what did they use? The 105 maybe?
Yeah, 105, 106 range.
106. So, even if your first is the 101, that ain't doing it. So you're offering multiple firsts, or you're offering a guy like who? Like a Justin Jefferson? Does that even, and I know a lot of us don't like position for position trades, but I'm using the position to kind of show you like the level he's on right now. Like if someone offered you Justin Jefferson for Jamar Chase straight up, are you doing that?
No.
Right.
No.
And that's,
Jamar Chase is the better version of Justin Jefferson.
And
2 firsts.
I'm not taking those.
Yeah. I mean, we're at a point here where
2 firsts, 2 seconds.
I would need a player back. So in my home league that I co-commish, guy got him Saturday right before the game. So it's half PPR, a small tight end premium, sent DK Metcalf, Dalton Schultz in 2 seconds.
Say
and
that
still
again?
feels like he got DK Metcalf, Dalton Schultz in 2 seconds. And still feels like he got a steal.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
I get it. Like right now, I mean, the hype has got to be so ludicrously high that, like, I mean, he can't keep this up, right?
But
But
I want to know how you guys have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. You guys have 2 of the top, 5 dynasty wide receivers, arguably the RB1 in dynasty.
we do.
Well, Bill, I would love to take credit for this, but I'm going to give a lot of the praise to the co-owner of that team.
Please don't.
at Super Duper Flex. Well, our plan going into the draft, we said we wanted to go young. We wanted to, almost like a productive struggle. The problem is that the struggle wasn't that real. So we have a lot of youth, but we knocked we knocked it out of the park on some of those guys. I mean, Burrow is playing out of his mind right now, and obviously, if we did that draft today, Joe Burrow's not lasting to the first or the second pick of the second round in a super flex draft. There's no way.
I mean, it was all just because of the injury, and we took the chance.
Jonathan Taylor fell to us because, as happened in a lot of super flex leagues this year, the first 8, 9, 10 picks were quarterbacks. So by the time it got to us, we were like, well, we don't need to take one right now because we have a pick 4 picks away or whatever it was. We'll take this really good running back. And
Me either.
I didn't realize when I was getting into that with that league. Holy balls! Well, short logic. As much as I love to brag about Bill and I's team, we are I think in sixth right now. Lindsay Kennedy is Hulk smashing all of us
Yes.
right now. It's not even close.
Guess who has Cooper Cup?
The
trust
Rams fan.
me, trust me. I know. Trust
She's
me.
outscoring the league by 160 points.
Yeah.
Or no, 140 points.
She's played an extra week of football this year.
Yeah. She's lapping the league at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
she's so as much as I love to brag about our team and what we've done, she is showing us that I think we got hustled a little bit because Lindsay was like, hey, I'm not too well versed in the dynasty thing. I think she pool hall hustled us, and she just came in and just got us. So
yeah, I'm just keeping the seat warm till 22.
Her team is disgusting.
Yeah, her team is. There's no weakness on her team. It's just.
I mean, it'd be wide receiver if I was going to pick anything, and she has AJ Brown, who's been hurt. So like,
and Cooper Cup
and Cup.
Yeah,
Thielen is her third.
That's not a weakness. You got those two. That's not a weakness. Oh man, but no, her team is really good. But we got sidetracked there a little bit. Well, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I'll get us back. I'll get us back on track here with my good. D'Ernest Johnson, 22 for 146 and a touchdown in the rushing game, and then he just added a couple of receptions for 22 yards in the passing game as well. And it seemed like, and I don't know if you guys were seeing and hearing the same thing. A lot of people were saying, don't waste your money on D'Ernest. Don't start D'Ernest if you got him. It's not going to be what you think it is. And man, that man was on a fishing boat a couple years ago, and now he might be fishing for a slightly better contract in a year or two. So that was my guy. I watched that Thursday game. It was so much fun, and I'll slide right over now into the bad. And Darrell Henderson, 15 rushes for 45 yards, 3 receptions for 19 yards. He also dropped a touchdown pass, which would have made his night a lot better. But not gonna lie, he's been killing it this year. So he had a down game. It's gonna happen. Keep riding the wave, because I'm sure, like the rest of the Rams offense, good things will continue to come. So Drew, why don't you hit us with your bad on this one?
I went with Jimmy Garoppolo in the rain. I'm just having flashbacks to that shovel pass he tried to throw in the first quarter there, and I know the weather was a factor, but just a microcosm of some of the weeks here. So 16 to 27, 181 yards. Did get 1 touchdown to Debo, which I needed, but 3 turnovers overall in the game. So yeah, that was not what they were looking for. Yeah, I forget how long it's been since they've won an actual legitimate home game now.
Yeah, it's been a while. They only got 2 wins on the season. One against Bills Lions and one against the Philadelphia Eagles. Not exactly 2 of the upper echelon teams in the NFL right now. Yeah, I'm sure as soon as Trey Lance is 100%, I think that switch is going to be made, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if Trey Lance is the answer either, but he's definitely better than what they currently have. So, Bill, who's your bad for this week?
My bad is the Detroit Lions. They pulled all the trick plays and they still lost. I mean, they converted them all and they still lost. So, like, you do all of that with just perfect execution, and then you still lose. I mean, it was like, you caught the heavyweight champ with a sneaky punch, but in the end, the champ didn't go down, and you took your payment. So it was bad. It was in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like, it was cool to see all this stuff happen, but at the same time, I mean, now you've done all your tricks in the book, and you know you didn't get the result.
I don't think they've done the biting kneecap play yet, so they might still have one more trick left in the book. But yeah, and like I'm starting to adopt the Detroit Lions into my heart because you just want to see him win that game. Like Bill said, they're throwing trick plays out there. Those guys are playing hard. They're not really getting blown out by anybody. They're kind of sticking in it the entire game, but it just seems like when the clocks hit zero, they're always on the losing side. So I've kind of adopted them into my heart a little bit. I want them to win that game. I think they're a team that deserves it just because they're out there really busting it. They're playing for their coach. But yeah, Detroit, man, they seem to find a way to lose every week, unfortunately. So that's a good one. Bill, why don't you hit us with your ugly?
My ugly is Justin Fields. 22 of 32 for 184 and 3 picks. You know, it's just been a barrage of shittiness. I'm not really sure what else to say. Like, I mean, he's a rookie, so there's like, you know, I mean, it's just too bad because everybody built him up. Like, I have a lot of friends from Chicago, and I mean, everybody's building Justin Fields up. Oh, what a great pick. You know, how did everybody let him fall to Chicago? You know, this is incredible. You know, so the pressure on the organization to get him out on the field was so great. And there's a reason that they were starting Dalton. You know, they're like, he's a vet that, you know, can kind of take the heat if they struggle. Like now you got a young guy that you're hoping your future is, you know, he's going to be your future, and he's starting out with a pretty negative situation. And, you know, is he going to be able to handle that or bounce back from it and grow from this? So like it's a risky move by the organization, but at the same time, I mean, like, it's just bad all around. Like, what do you do? Like, I mean, personally, I'm thinking about making offers for him because I'm not willing to give up on him, but he's just been so bad that I think his value is so down. Like, and you know, you might get, if you have 20 leagues, you might get 1 or 2 takers, but I mean, that's 1 or 2 that's probably worth adding. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just too bad for the kid because he has like no chance. Like and maybe it's true. Like these Ohio State quarterbacks just don't. There's something about that system that makes them look incredible, and it's you know, maybe they don't have to make the reads that they do in the pros, and that's the big challenge for them.
So Bill, you brought up an interesting point, and since we have you here, and we have Drew, who is the president of the Justin Fields fan club, you said maybe throwing an offer out there. So Bill, what is the type of offer you would throw out in like a 12-team super flex league for Justin Fields right now?
So like if I'm a contender, I would still throw a first out,
Okay.
which because then it would be a late first, and I'd be totally fine adding him for that. If I am you know, I'm rebuilding, maybe I offer my second plus like you know, a decent player or a good player on top for him. Yeah, I just, the upside's still there, right? Like, I mean, but is he Dwayne Haskins? Like, that's the issue. Like, we don't know. And Haskins looked incredible at Ohio State. And, you know, he fell to 15. What was Fields 8 or something like that? Or
11.
No, he was
11?
double digits.
So he was double digits.
11.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe the NFL teams do know something, right? And so I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where I am, maybe, is like late first value.
So Drew, as president and founding member of the Justin Fields fan club, if you get a a late first offer for Justin Fields because he's probably on your team. Are you taking that?
That is a negative statement, Josh.
Yeah, but that's exactly why, because of all that precursor of
Hey.
the fan club.
Well, and I'm curious because I do also agree with what you said about, if you're in 20 leagues, you might get one person to bite on it because that one person may have, maybe he dropped in that draft and, he didn't have the same, level of admiration as Drew did for him. So I just wanted to ask the question because, I think it's a good thought exercise there. But Drew, why don't you hit us up with your ugly?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the number of leagues I don't have them in. It's not many, but I will definitely be looking at some offers as well. But yeah, I think some of it, of course, is just that idea that I invested an early first round pick in Superflex, so I'm sure some of that is clouding a little bit of the valuation there. So there is the idea you typically want to get out earlier than later on a bad investment, right? So we'll see where it goes. I definitely have hope in the talent that's there. So I would love to see some changes in coaching. And then, really, I've seen the question this last week, right? Is it Fields, Nagy, or possibly both that are just bad? So kind of narrow down the variables here and see which one or both, if they both kind of surfaces not good.
Oh, I'm sure it's both. But I mean, he's a rookie. Like, for the love of God, shit's moving so fast for him. Like, he can't process, and it's obvious that he can't. I mean, and he's not like really running. I mean, I know he ran a lot, but he it was like 5 yards a carry or something like that. And so it's not like he's like being an exceptionally effective runner. So it's tough grading these rookie quarterbacks. I mean, look at all the rookie quarterbacks, right? They're all struggling. I mean, who's the best one? Mac Jones? Like, I mean, and so, I mean, which would be expected, right? Because the other guys are more mobile. They're, you got a guy who's already like a better passer. So there's a chance that he's going to be a little bit more successful early on. But damn, dude, like, I mean, if I have Fields in, I think on one or two teams, and like, I don't think I'm going to move him. But like, if I was somebody who had maybe paper hands and was a little nervous and really wasn't that, like, he was a luxury pick kind of thing, maybe I'm more willing to just cut my losses now and do it again next year.
There you go. All right, Drew, hit us with the ugly, man.
Ugly, a broad stroke here. We touched on it earlier. Starting lineups this week in general. That was all the pictures and screenshots on Twitter with people showing their worst combos. You mentioned a couple of the quarterbacks you had to start in Scott Fishbowl. I had a lot of Ferkser starting at tight end this week as either my second tight end because I just had wide receivers out as a flex play. I was lucky to get Dearness Johnson in a couple places and had to play him. I didn't have to listen to anybody on Twitter. I could just say, you know what? He's somebody who's not on IR and not on a bye. So here we go. But yeah, this week was pretty ugly, and we'll see. I don't think we have another one that's this heavy, but we'll see as injuries accumulate and so forth. I'm sure we'll have another week or two that'll be pretty bad for some folks, depending on how they stacked up their teams.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, I told you about Scott Fishbowl. Drew and I are in a 14-teamer where I had to start Blaine Gabbert because I had Dak and Kirk Cousins again on a bye. I also have Watson on that team, and obviously he ain't playing anywhere.
And Josh Allen.
And Josh Allen. Oh yeah, that's right. It's Josh Allen and Kirk Cousins, not Dak and Kirk Cousins on that team. So, man, what is the NFL doing to us fantasy folk, man? Like, you put those teams on bye at the same time. Like, come on, NFL, do better. But yeah, I mean, I was starting Braxton Berrios in another league. That you have to start 3 wide receiver, not only because of the buys, but then Antonio Brown was hurt as well. So yeah. So yeah, it was terrible. was doing the same thing that Drew was. I was looking at some of the screenshots and some of the tweets of people saying, I had to start this random guy this week. And it's just like, NFL just needs to do better. Ugly. I keep bringing this guy up because it just hurts my heart every week watching it. And it does tie into Bill's ugly of Justin Fields. But Allen Robinson, 2 receptions for 16 yards. We all said, Justin Fields might be the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever played with. This has been terrible. I mean, if you would have said before the season, what's your over-under that Allen Robinson ends up on your bad or ugly, I probably would have said, set the number at 3 and I'll take the under. And I think he's been over just in my bad and ugly alone for this season. Kind of have to do the same thing you have to do at Fields, though. Hope that either new coaching or a change of scenery brings him back. But man, it's been tough with him, and it hurts because I'm a big Allen Robinson fan for a very long time, and just watching kind of the demise of Allen Robinson has been hard to take. But all right, let's brighten our spirits a little bit, and let's do what we all do best and hit up the timeline. Let's see what we saw on the timeline. And the first question here is from Spence at JTRB1. I know Spence, we're actually in a group chat together. He's an awesome dude. And he, when I asked for questions, he threw this on here, so I wanted to talk about it. So he's got a 12-team Superflex tight end premium. Side 1, Trey Lance, Antonio Gibson, a 22 first and a 23 second, or Dak Prescott, Austin Eckler, and Cordarrelle Patterson. So, Drew, why don't we start with you? Which side do you like here, side 1 or side 2?
I went back and forth on this a little bit, and I think I landed on side 2 with Dak.
Okay.
Give me the guy that's the top 3 quarterback right now. Eckler is great for this season. We'll see how long he goes. And, I think when we pair these up here, the 22 first makes up the difference, or doesn't quite make up the difference for me between Trey Lance and Prescott and Antonio Gibson and Eckler. So, and then Patterson just scores points this year. So, I mean, you assume he's lost after this year, which is fine. But, I think I'll take those 3, consolidate the talent there, and hope that gives me what I need to make a push.
What about you, Bill? What do you like on this one, side 1 or side 2?
Yeah, I think you're getting a lot of unknowns for knowns. So, that side 1 is enticing if you're in a rebuild. So, it still makes sense. But just value-wise, I think it's the Dak side. I basically said Patterson for the second. Eckler is above Gibson, and then also Dak is above Lance in a first. So I just think that there's a decent amount of value on the Dak side. But I could see taking it if I was in complete, I need to get these guys off my roster, but I just don't see that being the case very often. Why do you need to get rid of a top quarterback like Dak and Superflex? So I just don't see the only you could do something with Eckler for Gibson if you wanted to do it that way or something, So unless it's somebody who's really, really loves draft picks. So that could be the case too. So but it's Dak pretty easily for me, that side.
All right, so I'll have to apologize to Spence because I thought this would be one that we might be split on. And I'm also going to go with side 2. So sorry, Spence. I thought we were going to be split on it and we were going to have maybe a lively debate. But no, I'm with you guys. But Bill brought up a really good point. When I looked at it, I thought this was kind of the textbook contender versus rebuilder type trade where, you're giving up the big name pieces, but Austin Eckler is getting a little bit older. Patterson, I agree with Drew, is probably next to nothing after this season. So you're getting a lot of immediate pieces. Obviously, Dak is long term because he is still relatively young and he's going to be tied with that offense for a little bit. But you're getting younger. You're getting the upside play on side one with Trey Lance, and if he is what he's been explained to us as a kind of a Lamar Jackson type, runner, and has a cannon for an arm. You're getting that upside. Gibson is so weird because I think he's super talented, but the way Washington uses him is in a very specific role, and they don't really break him out of that too much. So, but I do think he's a very good player. And then obviously picks, which I think Bill said there are some people that just like picks. They want to be in the draft every year. They want to be able to move and shake and say that they made, multiple first round picks, and that does happen. So yeah, the three of us, we're all going side two here, and I think this poll is still actually going. But when I threw it on the show sheet, it was 61% for side two and 39% for side one. So obviously, so far, when I threw it on here, the majority was going on that Dak side as well. So
does it change? How much does it change if you replace Dak with Tom Brady, who's leading the league right now in what yards, touchdowns, all that?
Yeah, I think it changes a lot because I shouldn't say a lot, but it does change some because obviously, we've been counting down the days till Tom Brady retires for the last 5 seasons, and I mean, does eventually have to retire, right? I mean, he could be half robot by now, and we would never know. So maybe he never retires, but you would figure, he has a 2-year contract, so he's definitely playing out the rest of this year and playing out the rest of next year, and then maybe he retires. So maybe that switches it a little bit, but I still think I go on that Tom Brady side because as long as he's tied up with, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Gronk and Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette, I mean, you just figure he's gonna do probably very similar things next year as well. So it changes some, but I still think I would take the Tom Brady side if you replaced it. What do you think, Bill? You're on mute. I don't know if you can hear me.
Still on mute.
Yep, I'm good for that. So I would be on the other side then, I think, because then you're really losing years of service. So that would be my biggest concern. You're really giving up a lot, I think. And so, yeah, I think it would actually then not be close the other way, personally.
Interesting.
You heard it here first. Bill thinks that Trey Lance will play longer than Tom Brady. Wait till we get to laugh at him.
Yeah, 2028.
Oh my God.
Everybody's like, who's Trey Lance? And
I would love to one day.
Bionic Brady is.
What was that Netflix show that Brady walks out of the massage parlor, like the 50th version of himself?
I would love, as an exercise, maybe I'll do this over the next week and just see kind of quarterbacks drafted in the last 5 years who were like, oh, those guys for sure will outlast Brady, and how many of those guys are in the league. It would just be a funny exercise to see because he's outlasted a lot of dudes. So, awesome talk about that. So for the rest of these questions, I kind of wanted to get into some thought exercises just because we're at the halfway point of the fantasy regular season.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
So, I mean, now is the point where we kind of have to figure out, okay, what are we doing with our teams? Are they really contenders? Are they really rebuilds? Are we fooling ourselves one way or another? So I wanted to throw some questions here and get us thinking and maybe get us debating depending on how we feel. So this next one here is from JRC at Viking Power 72. He needs some dynasty rebuild advice. I'm not gonna read everybody on his team that he listed, but he's got some guys like Deontay and Ryan Tannehill, but he's got a boatload of picks. He's got 5 2022 firsts. Right now, one of those is the 101, and he's got 3 2023 firsts. So he's got 8 firsts in the next 2 years. So he's asking, should he stick with the picks and the youth or trade the picks for vets like Aaron Jones? Quickest way to the top, he's asking. So he wants to know, should he keep the picks and build with rookies, or should he trade some of those picks for vets? So kind of a team building. What's your how do you build teams and what's your whole process behind that? So Bill, why don't you start us off? Should he just make all those picks and get a rookie and sophomore super team, or should he try to get some vets on there as well?
I think that I like the way that his team's built. He's got a lot of young players. I mean, Tannehill is really the only player he has listed that's what I would consider not young. So his build is headed in the right direction that way. I think you just stick with it. Now, it's not the quickest way to the top. I mean, the quickest way to the top is to make some moves where you get some veterans that are going to score points for you. To actually answer the question, what the quickest way is, you need to add some vets, but don't do it right now because your team's not a contender, and adding a few vets isn't going to make you a contender, I don't think. So I would just kind of wait till the off season, let people get all hot and bothered about the picks. I mean, it's the same song and dance every off season. We know what's going to happen, and I mean, that's when, you get people who take over an orphan and they're trying to do what you're doing. So they have a vet that they want to get off their roster. So you can get them for a discount. So that's when you make those moves. I mean, easiest thing, man. You sell your vets when the games are on, and you buy your vets when the games are off. I mean, that's just how it works. And, it's a simple formula, but it's very difficult to have the discipline to keep doing that. So, because you want your team to look a certain way, you have this image, and it's hard to get over that. When you're in a rebuild, you want to get all the vets off your roster, and it's maybe that's not the best move for you depending on the time of year. So, I like where his team's headed with all those picks, and he's got some good young talent, and I would just personally stick with what you're doing, and I would not be trading for Aaron Jones right now, in the question.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up, Bill, because I was going to. I feel like Aaron Jones was a bad example that he put in his tweet, just because his team is young, and he's going to be building at least for another year. And what I mean by year is this and into the off season. But maybe, and Bill, I like what you said about waiting until the off season, rookie hype gets wild. We say we're going to learn every year, and we never learn. And then try to sell for some assets. But I would be poking around at some younger guys that maybe have some depressed value right now. Kind of like a DJ Moore. Everyone is worried because Sam Darnold is being Sam Darnold all over again. And if you have a guy, especially a guy who's had DJ Moore on his team for a couple of years, DJ Moore always seems to put up stats, but at the end of the season, we always end up saying he sucks for some reason, which I don't understand that reasoning. But it's what happens. And maybe poke around to that guy and see if you can use one of those later first to get a guy like a DJ Moore, and look at some of those younger depressed assets. But overall, I think Bill is right. I think you hold on to those picks unless obviously someone comes to you with like a sweetheart deal that you can't refuse, then obviously take it. But wait until it gets wild. Wait until, we start talking about, oh man, well we said 2022 was going to suck, but now look at all these guys, and we'll get hype about it again, and you know, then you start wheeling and dealing those picks. I always love the three of us are in Superflex Army too, and I still will not forget uh, trading a mid or a late first rounder for Stephon Diggs because the hype on Jalen Waddle got so big, and I was just like, I made the offer and didn't think it was going to go through, and it went through, and I was like, man, this rookie hype is real. I mean, really real. So yeah, I think Bill nailed it on the head. I think you keep him until that off season and then work your magic. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, looking at who's got here, I would be shopping Hurts right now to a contender, and I would hope that maybe Hurts might get you a guy like Watson. I had one league where I am not a contender, and I had Hurts as my fourth quarterback, and I got Watson plus for him from a contending team that needed, a point scoring quarterback this year. I'd be looking at guys like maybe CEH or Jacobs that are a little bit younger still, that have a little runway, and see what kind of a deal you could pull. A first is attractive as we get closer to the playoffs. So, find the Aaron Jones person and offer them Dylan, since you've got Dylan. They want to make sure they got the backfield for the playoffs. So I'd look to still move a couple pieces around. I like the young receivers that he's got. Chenault, Deontay, T. Higgins, Mooney. They're all good to build with. Depending on if it's a TE premium as well, go and kick the tires on Irv if he's out there and see if somebody wants to give him up super cheap, since nobody's talking about him right now. So I think there's still some moves to make in between, but Hurts is the one that I'd try to move right now in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks and see if you can find a contender that needs a quarterback. Maybe you got the Russ owner is teetering on 500, or like I said, Watson owner or somebody like that doesn't want to wait anymore to see. So I think there's still some moves to be made, but ultimately, yeah, there's no reason. I don't think you're going to get what you need, like Bill said, to make a push this year and have fun over the next few years. Otherwise, you'll be rebuilding right away if you just go and move all those picks for vets for this year.
Yeah, I love it. So I think on the poll we would be on the you know on the trade some picks for vets, but this is we're not doing it today. We're waiting a little bit unless we kick the tires on some stuff and we can find I mentioned DJ Moore. Drew mentioned trading Hurts and maybe getting a Watson or something like that, because Hurts is going to be appealing to contenders, because no matter how bad he plays actual real life quarterback for fantasy, he has been amazing and he continues to be amazing. And even in games that you don't think he's going to be amazing, fourth quarter comes and he rushes for a touchdown, and all of a sudden he is turned from maybe QB 18 to QB 12 because he rushed for a touchdown or two. So he's got that rushing upside, and that's always going to save him no matter how amazingly bad he is in the passing game. So I love that. I didn't even put two and two together. So I love that, Drew. Great stuff from both of you guys. So this next one here is from Britt Sanders at the FF Sandman, asking for some friends, but I'm curious where those Pitts ain't it year one folks are at. To be transparent, I was a late convert, like 2 weeks before week one, late. It's not too late to change course and join the fun side. So, my first question, uh, leapfrogging off of this, is what do we think about Pitt's rest of season? Because he's got two straight 100-yard games, and it almost looks like he is the number one pass catcher in Atlanta now. So, do we see that continue, or is this just a temporary blip? Calvin Ridley gets back on track and he gets relegated to, second banana. Drew, why don't you start us off? What do you think?
I will admit I was not into the hype. I had multiple drafts where I had a 104 or higher and had some opportunities to draft Kyle Pitts, and I only did it in one league. And of course, in hindsight, I wish for this year, I wish I had spent more of those 104s on Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. However, that's not the reality. So I think it continues. I think he is a matchup problem. I think there's enough volume to go around for him and Ridley to get back on track. And I think he's going to continue to be a problem, and that's just the evolution of the tight end over the last few years. It's the uber athletic guys that are a problem, either size wise for safeties or speed wise for the linebackers. He's lining up out off the line an absurd amount as a tight end, quote unquote, right? God forbid they ever change his designation to a wide receiver, right? But
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
For who he is right now, even in a standard league, not even a PPR league, I mean, he's still the guy that you want. So I think he's showing the talent and the hands and the speed and the ability to make tough catches, right? Not even just a separation, just making tough contested catches too. It looks like Matt Ryan trusts him, so I don't see any reason why it should slow down. Just like I don't see a whole lot of reason why Jamar Chase would slow down at this point.
Love it. What about you, Bill? What do you think about Pitts for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you and I did a show with the guys from Dynasty Theory, and one of the questions was like, what take are you going to have that others, where you're a contrarian essentially?
Yes.
And my answer was that I probably won't be taking Kyle Pitts much because of just the issue with tight ends transitioning to the NFL. And I think this was probably April or May when that.
Yeah.
And I think it was pre-draft actually. So then I watched some videos and I watched, then I'm like, wow, this guy isn't really a tight end. So like maybe he could, transition into, the NFL a little better. And so I actually took him early in, like I was taking him at 103 in certain ones in tight end premium leagues and stuff like that. And just because I wanted to make sure I got a few shares of him early on. And so like I'm excited for what he's doing. Like the guys from Dynasty Theory were like, Pitts might be the tight end one after 2021. And I mean, everything's looking like that's going to be the case, and so by the way, subscribe to them. Great dudes and really smart dudes.
100%.
So like, yeah, he's outside a lot. And what's the coach's name?
Arthur Smith.
Yeah, Arthur Smith made a comment like, anytime we see him outside and it's man coverage, we're throwing the ball's going to him, like cut and dry, like that. Matt Ryan, you see man, throw the ball to him. So like if that's the case for a rookie, like what in the hell is going to happen when this guy actually knows what's happening? You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. So he's one of the guys who's really lived up to the hype, right? Like how many guys can we actually say from day one? I mean, it took him 3-4 games before he started actually becoming like a top 6 tight end. And now, I mean, damn, like it's incredible. Like, I mean, I can't think of anybody who just, some wide receivers, but I can't think of like even Herbert really is the only other guy that's like kind of like, but he wasn't even hyped like this.
He wasn't.
No, it's him and Chase.
Like, yeah, it is because it's like Barkley. I mean, you could argue like, but because he was hyped, Zeke, but Zeke wasn't hyped until he got drafted so early. So like it's it's impressive, and he's pretty much if you're in a tight end premium, he is untouchable. Like, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, what are you? Kelsey's the only guy that is.
are you
even,
trading him for him? I'm not.
Oh, no, I'm not trading him for him, but I'm saying Kelsey's the only guy that you can even bring into the conversation right now that would at least make a Pitts owner look at your trade offer. I mean, and I'm not saying that's a trade that gets made. I'm just saying that's the
Yeah.
only tight end in the
Right.
league that makes someone look at your offer and go,
And that's
okay,
what I
like,
mean. Like, but that was why
Yeah.
I said that. It was
Oh,
more
yeah,
along the
yeah.
lines of like, you get that offer, are you even considering it? Because
oh, straight up, no.
like, I think that you're a monster majority in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking. I just looked up the most recent trades for him.
Oh man,
Yeah, you got to go back to like September.
Well, I'm looking at like after this week.
Yeah,
like,
I
what
want
people
to
are
see
paying.
what people are giving
Uh,
up for
What
now.
I'm saying is, I don't think people are trading him.
Oh, right. Pitts for Andrews in a first. That's an interesting one.
I would give up Andrews in a first.
Oh yeah, me too.
Pitts and Pittman for Claypool, Michael Thomas, Jonnu in a first.
Okay, that guy got ripped off.
I would take the Pitts and Pittman.
Oh
side.
yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, it's not even
Pitts
close.
for Claypool 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, the Pitts.
Pitts, Chase, and Fields for Tyreek, AJ Brown, and some nothings.
Mahomes.
Yeah. So like it's Cup for Pitts in a first.
Standard league.
It's 10 teams start 14. No tight end premium.
Yeah, I think in week like 2 or 3 in Superflex Army, I was going back and forth with somebody there looking at Hawk Plus for Pitts, and I asked for Hawk and McLaurin, and that was a no-go at that point. And I think if that offer came back to me today, it'd be an easy decline.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like what were some of the trades back in Pitts for Kittle straight up.
Oof.
That was September 5th.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, it's Antonio Gibson for Pitts.
Oh
my God.
Pitts actually on 9-9. Pitts for 2 firsts.
Oh God, I'm still taking Pitts.
It's
Pitts
so hard.
for Devonta Smith.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, there's been some interesting ones, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, hindsight, of course, right? Hindsight's 2020. We've all got those trades that we wish we could have back, or you wonder what we were thinking. But yeah, at this point, Pitts is he is that guy. And yeah, I mean, imagine when we find out in the offseason he spends a month with Tony Gonzalez in his cabin working out in the offseason, right? It's like,
yeah. I mean, Bill and Drew both brought up this point. I heard a stat, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was something like he's only lining up as an inline tight end like 30 or 40% of the time. Like, so he is outside a lot, and obviously that is that's working very well for him. But we talk about what he did in the beginning, but he's only had one game with less than 6 targets this season. One game. So if you're telling me that this guy is getting minimum 6 targets a game, like, and the last 2 games, 9 receptions on 10 targets, 7 receptions on 8 targets. So now he was getting the targets at the beginning of the season, but he just wasn't coming down with the ball. And I think some of that was being a rookie in the league, and I think some of that was Matt Ryan was just not crisp at the beginning of the season. But now, I mean, he is catching everything in sight. And, 10 targets and 8 targets in the last 2 games. I mean, if this is going to be his workload for the rest of the season, I mean, he's going to shatter every rookie tight end record, and I think it
League
was
winner.
I think Bill said it. He is going to be either the tight end one, or we're going to be having some real serious discussions about Travis Kelsey versus Kyle Pitts, and it's going to be fun to watch these startups next year and see how high, because we're not talking about, oh, he's the tight end one or he's the tight end two. That's a second round pick. No, 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 no. That's going to be a first round startup pick, especially in a 1.5 or higher tight end premium.
But Drew brought up a good point earlier. With like, what happens when he's renegotiating his contract, right? And then what if he gets franchised? Like, what sort of like leverage will he have based on his usage to be a wide receiver? And then you get like, I'd be paying attention to the news like when he gets towards the end of his rookie contract, just for that reason. Just pay attention if they think they're going to franchise, or is he, even in the off seasons, like, are they going to start designating players different positions based on their usage? Like, because he would lose a fair amount of value, right? Like if he's a wide receiver, I mean, he'd be a really good wide receiver, but um, he would go from world beater to front of the army, as he's not. So it's just something to, we don't have to worry about it for 4 years, but
Yeah.
it's something to think about at least.
So that reminds me of the issue that Jimmy Graham ran into when he got franchised by the Saints, a while back, where he was saying, "Hey, they're using me mostly as a wide receiver," and I actually think the league's ruling on it was, "Well, you're being listed as a tight end, so you're a tight end, and you get the tight end franchise tag instead of the wide receiver Now,
Yeah, that was a
obviously,
long time ago,
that was
though.
a long
So
time ago. Maybe the
yeah,
league has evolved in their stance on that, and it would be. I mean, I'm with you. It'd be very curious to see.
players are more apt to like go to court for stuff like this, because
Yeah.
that's some money, right? Like,
So I would be very curious to see what would happen in that situation as well. Or does Kyle Pitts just pull the old, I'll sit out until you designate me as a wide receiver to and like you said, man, that really, I mean, if he keeps playing like this, he would be a very high level wide receiver, but a high level wide receiver and the tight end Travis Kelsey type tight end are two totally different things. And yeah, it would be very. I mean, a lot of fantasy managers would cry if
Mhm.
if one day MFL and Sleeper and all these other platforms just decide, we're just going to designate you as a wide receiver and move on with our day. Luckily, some platforms still haven't done it for Cordero Patterson, so maybe we'll get lucky with Kyle Pitts as well, and he'll stay a tight end forever. But let's end it on one more, and this one here is from Austin at Debbie Deets. Uh, where are we at on Jalen Hurts? And this guy is so interesting because we mentioned it earlier, and I didn't want to talk too much about it when Drew had brought it up because I knew this question was coming. But for fantasy, you love this guy. I mean, he does it with his feet, even if his arm isn't, doing much point wise. But this is kind of where, we always say that fantasy football and real NFL football are not the same thing. Um, but we have to pay attention to the real NFL football because the uh, the Eagles are in line to have like 3 top 10 picks, depending on what the Colts do the rest of the season. And if they are, a 4-win team and they have 3 top 10 picks, I can't believe that they don't come out of that without a quarterback, and then that makes things really interesting. So, what are your thoughts about Jalen Hurts? Drew, start us off since you said now might be the time to trade him earlier in order to not get stuck holding the bag.
Yeah, it depends on what your quarterback room looks like for me. I mean, I've got plenty of places where he's my fourth quarterback because I got him as a throw in early in his rookie season before he played any downs. And, he's helping out because he's bridging the gap on some of those teams while I'm waiting for Justin Fields to figure it out. I've got one where I got him and Trevor Lawrence, and it looks like Lawrence is coming on stronger. So, if he's expendable, absolutely, I'll take the value that I can get. I don't know that if I'm a contender, I'm not sending him to another contender. That's just going to bite me in the butt. So, try to find somebody who believes in him and his talent, and the idea that maybe even if it's not Philly next year, he'll get an opportunity somewhere else, and let somebody else take that risk. But there are a couple of leagues where I'm just riding him for this season, and I have reconciled already with the idea that he may have low to no value next year, and that's okay because if he helps me win this year, it's worth it. And then I will take my draft picks next year or in 2023 and figure out my QB3 or QB4 at that point.
What about you, Bill? What are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts for it's really more like 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like the Jameis, right? Or there's always those players that like are fantastic for fantasy football, and it you have to weigh the risk, right? Like, I mean, earlier this offseason, I traded him for Swift, and I'm pretty happy with that because I don't have the risk. I think it was a 14 team super flex, so but whatever. Anyway, so quarterbacks are valued more there, of course, and so I think there's, like you said, there's just so much risk with all those picks that they may have. They may end up only having two, right, because of the one pick being
Right.
potentially a second round pick. But I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, whether it's trading, whether it's picking somebody, and he just doesn't have that passing ability. That a lot like that other quarterbacks have. He struggles on intermediate passes, and it's just one of those things like you got to hope. I know he busted his ass this offseason, but he's not really showing that much difference, this year. So I think there's a lot of risk to hold him. So I do agree with Drew and trying to move him if you can, unless you're a contender. And I mean, you just love those points. Sometimes you just got to take a hit, right? Like you got to guys just say, I know next year I might have zero, or I might have a Taysom Hill, but I need him this year because he's a top 10 quarterback. And so it's tough. But what I'm doing with it in any ideal situation is I'm moving him off my team.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, and obviously, if you listen to me anywhere before the season started, um, I was lower on Jalen Hurts than a lot of people. I thought the arm was going to get him in trouble, and I did not believe in his legs as much as some other people did. I was wrong on the legs part. His legs have been giving him a lot of the value, and it actually seems like his arm was better the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and it's been on like a steady decline. It seems like his completion percentage has gone down every week, which is kind of weird because when I saw him at the beginning of the season, I said, "Wow, I might be just totally wrong on what I thought he could do in the passing game." But I think like his last couple of games, his completion percentage is like 50% or something like that. Um, so obviously, if you're a contender and like a real contender, a top one or two team, it's like these guys said, you keep him. You know that next year may be nothing. He may be the Eagles' backup, or he may be starting for a team like, Houston, where you're just like, I like this guy and what he can do in the run game, but the weapons around him are god awful. This is no good. Um, but if you're a rebuilding team and you got Hurts on the thought that maybe he puts it all together and he turns into a stud, and you have this super young quarterback, try to trade him to one of those contenders or one of those even like guys that are like the 6 seed right now that are looking for that player to take them over the top to make them a legit contender, and get what you can get. I mean, you know, don't have a pie in the sky valuation of the guy and then end up holding the bag on him, because I do think that unless things turn around and the Eagles all of a sudden rattle off a bunch of wins, which just watching them week after week, I don't see that path. I don't think he is the starter in Philadelphia next year. So um, those are our thoughts on Jalen Hurts, and pretty much all three of us agreeing and saying, hey, keep him if you're going to win that championship. Because guess what? Jalen Hurts doing nothing on your squad in 2022 doesn't matter when you have those winnings and you have a belt or a trophy or whatever your league does, and you're holding that thing proudly and you're going, yeah, Jalen Hurts got me 0 points this week, but who cares? In 2021, I
Yep.
was the champ. So on that note, on our way out, we have to keep the tradition alive. We have to do our shout out at the end. And our shout out this week goes to our Dat Network brother, our friend, Justin Rogers at Run DFF. You, sir, in week 7 were not good enough to not be in last place. Drew, you were good this week, man. You were not hanging around the bottom. You were middle of the pack, which, hey, it's
Mediocrity. Who says it doesn't pay?
Listen, man, it's like Squid Game, brother. Like, hey, just like kind of always be in the middle, never be in the front, never be in the back, and you can make it pretty far. So yeah, Justin, we love you, but your ride in the in our Fantasy Cares Eliminator is over. You can stand with us on the sideline and cheer on the rest of the remaining teams, including Drew, and we'll see what happens next week. Week 7 was going to be the week that was going to really sack somebody, and
it was him. He had so many people on by, it was ridiculous. He's like, I did not pay attention to that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people in a lot of eliminators who didn't realize what week 7 was going to bring when they were doing their draft. And
I didn't look at the buy at all when I did those drafts.
April, May, June, you're doing an eliminator draft, and then all of a sudden.
Oh, do you even know the buys at that time?
Yeah.
Schedule's out, yeah.
Yeah, because schedule I think comes out either right before or right after the draft. So, but still, you're not thinking about it. Man, it's April, it's May, it's June. Who cares? Football's still a couple months away, and then you get to October, and you're like, "Oh, these buys! I forgot about these guys." That. So, on that note, thank you to the chat. The chat was awesome. We got Short Logic. We have Ridley Truther. So many cool people asking us questions, just putting their thoughts in there, and we love it. It makes the show a lot more fun. Just remember, if you guys are in the chat and you haven't for some reason, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the bell so that you know when we go live. To all of our people listening to us on the podcast, thank you again. An hour and 8 minutes. Literally could be doing anything else. But you spent your time with us, and we really do appreciate that. Just remember, if you haven't for some reason, hit subscribe. Do that rate and review so that we know, so that we can get out there in front of other people and spread the old fantasy timeline word. And on that note, We are out of here.
Late.